Hi, seventh graders. Today we're going to talk about the area of triangles. So hopefully this video helps you be able to calculate the area of a triangle. So first of all, a triangle is going to be a polygon, which means it's a closed figure with three sides. So one thing I want to point out here, we've learned about parallelograms. So if I have a parallelogram here, the area formula for our parallelogram, remember, is A is equal to base times height. So this would be for the area of the parallelogram. Well, when we think of, if I were to do something like that and say, okay, well, now I just want the area of this red part. Well, that red shape is now a triangle. And if we look, that triangle is half of the parallelogram. So when we talk about the area formula for a triangle, it's going to be 1/2 base times height. So base times height would give us the area for the entire parallelogram. We just need the area of the triangle, so we're going to end up taking half of it. This is the most common way to see it written. Another way that you can think of it is if we're taking half of something, we're also dividing it by 2. So you might also see it written as base times height divided by 2. So our formula is going to be A equals 1/2 base times height. And I would also just go ahead and write it as base times height divided by 2, just both ways, so that whichever way makes the most sense to you, you can use that. So again, where A represents area, B represents base, and H represents our height. And again, the base and the height are always perpendicular, just like they are for parallelograms. Perpendicular means they intersect to form a right angle. So first of all, on these triangles, if we were to label the base and the height, again, you're looking for those right angles. So here are 2 measurements. Okay, my base and my height. Here's the right angle. So this base, even though the right angle is kind of formed off to the side, that's okay. So your base is still going to be this measurement, and then your height is going to be this measurement that's forming the right angle there. Here we would have our base and our height, and then over here, base, and then the height. So the base does not always need to be the bottom, all right? But you are looking for the 2 measurements that form the right angle. All right, so to find the area of a triangle, you want to start with your formula. So we have a triangle, we're going to do 1/2 base times height. So always start with your formula and then you plug in what you know. So I need to figure out my area. I'm going to keep that 1/2 right now. My base is 5, my height is 4, and we can multiply in any order here. So multiplication is commutative, which means I could multiply the 5 times 4 first and then take half of that, or I could take half of the 4, which would be 2, and then multiply it by 5 to get my answer as well, okay? So we could either do half of 4 is 2 times 5 would be 10, and we would still get that answer if we did 5 times 4, which would be 20, and then take half of that. And because this is area and we're focused on the inside of that shape, that's going to be square centimeters. On number 2, notice we have a whole bunch of numbers here. We want the area of this triangle. We're going to start with our formula, 1/2 base times height. So my base and my height are perpendicular to each other, so I'm looking for the measurements that intersect to form a right angle. That's going to be these 2. So I'm going to have 1/2 times 6 times 4. Again, we can multiply in any order. So you could take 6 times 4 to get 24 and then take half of that to get your final answer. Or you can take half before you multiply. So 1/2 of 6 is 3, and 3 times 4 would also give us 12 square centimeters. Number 3, start with your area formula for a triangle. A equals 1/2 base times height. So I'm going to plug in my 7 and my 5. 7 times 5 is 35, and half of 35 is going to be 17.5 square meters. Over here, start with our formula. A equals 1/2 base times height. Again, the base and the height are perpendicular to each other, so I'm looking for measurements that form a right angle. So the 9 and the 2 are going to form that right angle. So I'm going to have 1/2 times 9 times 2. You can multiply in any order. So I'm going to go ahead and do half of 2 is 1, and then 1 times 9 is going to be 9 square meters. Go ahead and pause the video and try these next couple on your own. All right, so here, always start with the formula. A equals 1/2 base times height. Triangle is half of a parallelogram. That's where we get the formula from. So 1/2, 4 times 4. So half of 16 is going to be 8 square centimeters. On number 2, our area formula is 1/2 base times height. My base and my height are 9 and 4. Half of 4 is 2, and 2 times 9 would be 18. So this is going to be 18 square inches. Number 3, start with your formula, 1/2 base times height. My base and my height are perpendicular to each other, so it's going to be the 12 and the 17. So 1/2 times 12 times 17. Half of 12 is 6, and 6 times 17 would be 102. So this is 102 square feet. And on this last example, start with that formula, 1/2 base times height. Base and height are perpendicular to each other, so forming that right angle, so that's the 12 and the 8. And so I know half of 12 is 6. 6 times 8 is going to be 48 square feet. All right, Tim is building a birdhouse. One wall is shaped as a right triangle. The dimensions of the wall are pictured. What is the area for this part of the birdhouse? So we need the area of a right triangle, so start with that area formula, 1/2 base times height. My base and my height are perpendicular to each other, so 1/2 times 12 times 7.5. I know half of 12 is 6, so I'm going to do 6 times 7.5, and that is going to end up being 45 square inches. We're not going to worry about number 6 right now. All right, have a wonderful day.